So today's deal comes from Dan Gongora from Elgin, Illinois. He is a BiggerPockets Plus member, and he is looking to do a house hacking deal. And if you're not familiar with what house hacking is, it is when the owner occupies part of the property. So last week we did a deal where we did a single family where someone would live in one of the bedrooms and lease out the other ones. This example that Dan sent us is a duplex. So it's 2 units and each one is 2 beds and 1 bathroom. And this is in Elgin, Illinois. It is a western suburb of Chicago. And so Dan says that he has $15,000 to invest. He wants to house hack, so he'll be living in 1 unit and the second unit will be receiving rent. He will be financing it with FHA loan, which if you're not familiar means that you can put as little as 3.5% down. And there are pros and cons to this, but an awesome strategy for beginners is to use that FHA loan and live in the house. It's probably one of the best low money strategies that are out there to start investing. Dan says that the high-end rent for that area is 2 bedrooms and 1 bath for $975, and there are management fees of 10% of rent. And so while you're in the house hacking, you may have no management fees. If Dan is handy or able to do a lot of the work himself, that is going to decrease. But Dan is right in saying that after he moves out, he wants to know that this property is still going to cash flow for him. So we will be looking into all this stuff in just a little bit, but we will also be looking at first just the house hack where Dan will be living in it and what the cash flow would look like in that scenario, and then we'll also build in the 10% of rent fees that we have. So before we go into any of the analysis, I want to show you guys the listing for this place so you can see a little bit about what we're talking about here. So this is the deal. It's listed for $165,000. As you can see, it's a nice big house on a really big plot. I think it's a 6,000 square foot plot. Good looking house from the outside. And then when you get into the inside, it looks great. So you see the kitchen is really nice looking, really new cabinets. I think that's a really nice touch. Everyone always looks for kitchens when they're looking for rentals or to buy. It's a huge space. You could probably fit a table in there as well. So it's a nice space for renters. A recently renovated bathroom, it looks like, again with plenty of space. Nice living room, plenty of bright lights. The really nice trim around the windows are original. I like to see that when people do that rather than just gutting the whole house. They leave a bit of the trim around the windows and doors for some of that charm. It looks like there's laminate flooring, which is always a good idea for rentals. It looks nice, as you can see. It looks like wood, but it's cheaper and far more durable. A lot of laminate floors come with lifetime or 25-year warranties, which is really nice for a rental property. Nice living space. This place seems awesome to me so far. I mean, I could definitely see this place renting pretty easily. I'm no expert in this neighborhood or area, but just as an investor looking at knowing what renters look at, this is a great spot. So this appears to be the second kitchen. I'm guessing it's upstairs. It's going to be the second unit. And still, it has that same laminate floor throughout. Although it is up on the second floor, there's still really nice light, and the kitchen looks great. There's a smaller living area, but definitely plenty of space to hang out. And again, there's 2 bedrooms up here as well. Some of the, you have carpet in these rooms and the wood panels, but a nice solid bathroom as well. There's a second bedroom, looks pretty solid as well, plenty of solid light. And you could tell if you just look at the space above the doors, the ceilings are still pretty tall, even on the second level, which you don't always see. Again, it's a really nice yard. People with dogs would want to live here. You have a fenced-in yard. You can always charge pet rent for that. So overall, I'm liking what I'm seeing. There's also a garage. Again, you can either charge extra or build in a higher price of rent for off-street parking in most neighborhoods, especially in Illinois where there's a rough winter. That's going to be a really nice perk. So we did also look quickly at the Craigslist in the area. Dan had mentioned that he believed the rent would be about $975 per month, and it looks consistent. I think Dan's dead on with that. We looked, there's nothing right in that immediate neighborhood that we were seeing, but just in the general area, we were seeing 3 bedrooms for about $1,700, as you can see, a 1 bedroom for $800, all in Elgin, Illinois. I hope that I'm pronouncing that correctly. But you'll see that it does run the gamut, but I do think Dan is right on and being being conservative in his estimates for rent, which is great. You always can be happy if rent goes up from there, but when you're doing your analysis, you want to be, all right. So we're going to jump over to the numbers, and I'll just show you guys. We did do an FHA mortgage detailed deal just to go and run these numbers for Dan. So I'm going to step over here to the whiteboard quickly and start talking about how to analyze this deal.
Hey, Dave?
Yeah.
What website were you using to figure out the rents?
That's a good question. What website was I using to figure out the rents? Personally, I go on Craigslist. I find it to be the easiest. They have a map view, and you can sort of just look in the area to see similar properties. So click into something. You can filter by 2-bed, 1-bath if you want, and just click around and see what people are listing things for. Also, Zillow has good rent. Unfortunately, there's no really good way where you can just plug in a number and get it out. You kind of just have to look at comps is what I would recommend. All right, so I'm going to jump over here to the numbers here. And so the deal, again, is a duplex. We have two bedroom, 1-bath apartments in Elgin, Illinois, which is just west of Chicago. The list price is $165,000, and we're looking to do a house hack. So Dan also wants to look at this in terms of an FHA loan, which is putting 3.5% down. And if you guys are liking this video, please make sure to share, comment, tag your friends in this, teach them how to analyze a house hack. It's an awesome thing to know how to do. So make sure you engage with us there on Facebook if you're liking the video. So the FHA loan is going to come out to $1,154. And I talked about this a little bit in a video last week, but there are multiple parts of your mortgage. One is going to be the principal and interest. Every time you pay down your principal, you are making money. Interest is profit for the bank. And on an FHA loan, you also have PMI, which is mortgage insurance. When you put below 20% down, often you have to pay mortgage insurance, and that is pretty much always the case with FHA loans. And so this is going to be higher than you would have with a conventional loan. You're going to pay some additional fees. But if you are looking for a low money down strategy, this is a great way to do it. So that comes out to $1,154 per month, which would be a great deal. I don't know the expenses in this area that well, but I'm going to estimate it's going to be around $500 per month. That's just a rough estimate. I don't know. If Dan is out there, tell us what you think it's going to be. Obviously, in any situation, you want to be able to analyze exactly what your expenses are going to be. Repairs, maintenance, vacancy, all that stuff you need to really figure out for any deal. I'm just ballparking here at about $500 per month. I'm also just going to mention right now that Dan said that he had $15,000 to put down. So with putting 3.5% down, it's only going to come out to $5,775 for the down payment. So that's awesome. I'm also going to ballpark and say that for an FHA loan, it's about $3,000, $4,000 for closing costs. Let's round up and just say that's $9,000 down. So that is an awesome deal for Dan right now. He's saved up $15,000 to invest. This particular deal would have him putting about $9,000 down, leaving him $6,000 in reserves for repairs and maintenance, which is really important to have in case something goes poorly. But so let's move on now to sort of the income side, and then we'll do an analysis of all the profits at the end. Dan says $975 for the income. So we'll put that up here. And again, because this is a house hack, even though it's a duplex, only one side of the duplex is going to be generating income. So Dan is going to be living in the other side, but that is also important because you're making money that way too. So I'm calculating if Dan is going to live in an apartment, if he were to live in a similar apartment in the same town, like he said, it would cost him $975 to live in that apartment. But because of how this is going to work, Dan is only going to wind up paying $680 per month. And the way I got that is by adding our expenses, which is $1,154 plus $500, so that's $1,654, and then subtracting the $975 that he's getting in income, for this is how much he is going to come out on average per month for this apartment. And again, that is just an average. Sometimes expenses might be lower, sometimes they might be higher, but since Dan now has that $6,000 cushion because he didn't invest everything he had into the down payment, he can afford those swings a little bit into his monthly payment. So that's awesome. He's actually, so this is how much, that's not his savings, that's how much he's going to come out of pocket. And his savings are actually going to be $295 per month. My apologies. But so, as you're saying, for Dan to live in an apartment of that quality would normally cost him $975. Now it's going to cost him $680. He is saving $295 per month. Basically the same thing as making $295 per month. So let's look at how this works at the end of 2019. And again, I'm just making these numbers up, but basically we want to just pick a year and look at what the profit would be. So I just picked the end of 2019. Dan would live in the apartment for 2 years and then move out, refinance, whatever he wants to do with it. But at the end of 2 years, you're going to have money in two ways. One is through your rent, and that's going to be this number. So he is saving $295 every month he lives there. So for the 33 months remaining between now and the end of 2019, that would come out to $7,721 in profit. Awesome. The other way you make money on a house hack is by generating equity in your loan. Like I said, there's multiple parts of your mortgage, and one of them is principal. Every time you send a check to the bank every month for your mortgage, part of it is paying down your principal. And that is basically money you will not have to owe the bank when you pay them back at the end of your loan. So that's basically the same thing as profit for you as well. And you can learn this by looking at an amortization schedule or amortization calendar on an FHA mortgage calculator. You can check out how much % of principal you're paying for each of your mortgage payments. So by the end of 2019, that would come out to $9,735 in profit for a grand total of $17,456 in 2 years. So, or about 2.5 years, which I think is an incredible deal. So Dan is going to be putting down about $9,000 and making about $18,000 in 2.5 years. I can't do the math off the top of my head, but that's close to like a 70% return per year. That's an amazing, amazing deal. Now, Dan also has to factor in what's going to happen when he moves out. So he would have more rent, so he'd be probably around $2,000 a month in rent. 10% off, remember, for the property management fee, but he'll still be able to cover his expenses and mortgage with that. So it's going to be a small cash flow at that margin, but he's still making a little bit of money and he's still building that equity. That's really important. He is still having other people pay down what he owes the bank for him so that when he goes to sell the property, he is making all of that money. So that is the beauty of house hacking. So also, none of this even incorporates appreciation, which is something I can't comment on. I really don't know the neighborhood well enough. So I'm running this deal without an assumption of any appreciation, and I still think it's a great deal. And I also am not accounting for any increase in rent, which is probably likely. Maybe not in 2 years, maybe in 10 years, who knows? But rent is likely to go up over time. So on the face, I think this is an awesome deal. I think, Dan, I don't know if this is your first deal, but I would highly recommend seriously considering it. My big questions are really about the state of the house. You have a $6,000 cushion now, but there are going to be some significant expenses that you have to think about and make sure that you don't think have a high probability of coming up in the next few years, such as the roof, the boiler, the HVAC system. Those are the things you really need to be careful about. Other stuff, if an appliance breaks, that $6,000 cushion is going to cover you, but a roof can cost upwards of 10 grand, so can an HVAC system. A lot of these things are really expensive, so you just want to make sure the foundation's good. All these really big expenses to make sure and have a good quality inspection done. Make sure that's done really well. You read it really carefully before anything. Other than that, I think it's great. So this is our first deal of the day. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please like, share, comment. Let us know what you think of these things. If you got a deal you want, send it my way. I love doing this stuff. I love analyzing deals. This is exciting for me. So if you like doing it and you want a deal analyzed here, please send it my way. We'll do it. And that's it for me. I'm David Meyer with BiggerPockets. This is our deal of the day, and we hope to see you again tomorrow.